He's a big dude, man. I mean, we were gushing about Cam Davis last week. Roydo Williams, man, I mean, he's no joke. And he said that he's been working out since he was like 7 years old. I mean, 7 years old, I was probably playing like blocks or something. I don't even know what I was doing. So maybe I was a little bit younger. But, I mean, either way.
Damn, it took you a little while there to get some growth there, huh?
Hey guys, it's Terrence Nan. You're listening to Hear the Spirit, presented by No Game Day. Go Noles.
Hey, what's up? This is Peter Ward, aka E-Dub, in the house. We're listening to Hear the Spirit, presented by No Game Day. Go Live, go Noles.
Hi, this is Charlie Ward, and you're listening to Hear the Spirit. Go Noles.
This is Terrell Buckley. You're listening to Hear the Spirit, presented by No Game Day. No Bloody.
But perhaps better known as the greatest corner to ever step on a football field, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Great Deion Sanders, my brother. What's going on, man? I could wake up to that greeting every day, man. That was awesome.
Hello, Noles fans. This is former Seminole Derek Brooks, and you're listening to Hear the Spirit, presented to you by No Game Day.
James Wilder Jr. What's going on, James?
Thanks for having me on. SSOD, Florida State or Die, and go Noles.
William Bar None Floyd.
Gentlemen, what's up?
What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Hear the Spirit, presented to you by NoleGameDay.com. We are here live on a wonderful, fantastic Wednesday evening. Gentlemen, happy Valentine's Day. How we feeling?
Feeling great. I'm not sure my wife is feeling the same right now, but I'm still here and ready to do the show.
I'm in shock that this is happening right now.
I
thought for sure we're going to get a text like, hey, guys, can we do Tuesday and Thursday, which I would have been completely fine with. I fully understand that. Me and Veazey are the single ones here, so we have to do that. But how are you making up for this? Is there dinner after this? Are you cooking dinner right after this, or did you already do that before the show?
I'm not really sure what's going to happen yet. There were some stern. there was a stern discussion to make it tonight, and She did ask, why isn't this happening on Tuesday or Thursday? And I was like, they said it's got to happen on Wednesday. So
we never said nothing.
Let's not put anything out there publicly.
Gina, if you're listening to this,
we do Wednesdays at 7, even on Valentine's Day.
That's right.
Here we are.
I fully expected this just be me and Logan tonight. I really did.
Yeah, I thought
me, Logan, and the cats.
Especially for a podcast without much substance. Yeah, why am I even here?
I know there's not much to talk about this week. We've got a few things. I'll jump through the timeline here, but we're going to talk about.
Go ahead on it.
No, that might be the best way for you. But no, you've already bought in. Now you ain't getting out now. You better figure out those dinner plans.
We're going to get a text. He's on the couch.
Some more flowers, I guess. I don't figure it out.
You better work on getting some more flowers. You're going to have Valentine's a week after this. But with me this evening, Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer at Nole Game Day, and down below is our editor-in-chief, D-Lou Dustin Lewis. We're going to have a few things to talk about tonight. It's not going to be a long pod. No guests. We're looking to hopefully bring on some more later this month. But we're going to talk Super Bowl. Derek Nottie, 3-time Super Bowl champion. We've got some newcomer interviews along with Florida State's future starting quarterback, DJ, along with Roydell Williams. We've got Richie Leonard. Some of those quotes from the last couple of days. Got some good quotes from them, so going to run through a handful of those. I know there were some other guys that talked as well, but those are the primary ones I wanted to bring up. We've got Combine invites. 12 former Seminoles head into Indy, one of the largest team invites going to this year's NFL Combine in Indianapolis. So we're going to talk about that and discuss, as all of us here are really big fans of the NFL Combine in general. So it's going to be a fun one for us to cover coming soon. And then we're going to talk some ESPN way too early rankings and where Florida State sits at that. And then we've got a PFF updated mock draft where now 3 Seminoles are sitting in there in the top 100. And one of these guys, Braden Fiske, is going to a team that I think a lot of us would really like for him to land at. So that's going to finish off the show, along with some basketball scoop after basketball had a rough loss on the road where Veazey was in attendance against Virginia Tech. So got a handful of things, but it won't take too long. If anybody has any questions or topics, please throw that into the chat, and I'll be sure to lead the guys into some discussions if you have any stuff for us to talk about. But let's jump into it, guys. Super Bowl weekend football is done. It sucks. That's the sad part about it, but still got to talk about it. Derek Nottie is a 3-time Super Bowl champion. Congratulations to him. He was inactive for the game, but is dealing with injury rehab in there. But still, nonetheless, he's got 3 rings. It's going to count on his Wikipedia, and that's what matters the most. But shout out to Nottie. That's absolutely wild. A guy that I think kind of surprised some Florida State fans, and that's how some of these guys do. They go in the league and you're like, maybe not expecting a whole ton from them, but he's a guy that stayed consistent, has been a playmaker for the Chiefs throughout his career in Kansas City. But overall, though, Chiefs get it done against the 49ers, which went against my guess the other night. I was kind of 50-50. Didn't really give a definitive answer, but I ended up going with 49ers. But sure enough, Patrick Mahomes does what he does best. And, kind of just felt like when you're going to the overtime, Patrick Mahomes, that's, which way it's leading.
Yeah, I think last week when we talked about it, we were all just kind of hoping for a good game. But I can't lie, it is a little sweet to start off the year 1-0 while you're 0-1.
Facts. Yeah, I remember saying here last week, can't go against Mahomes. Just can't do it. And
he figures it out.
He always does. Always does. And
Yep.
He delivered on that last fourth quarter drive. He delivered in overtime. He does what Patrick Mahomes does.
He's a beast. He's a beast. Also, just some big storylines from it. Obviously, Taylor Swift stuff going on, but Travis Kelce going at it with Andy Reid. That was wild. I'm not a huge fan, Travis Kelce. I was before, but something changed, and it doesn't have to do with the Taylor Swift thing. I think it's great for football. I love having more ladies get into it with football and get involved with them more, with the girlfriends, wives, everybody, staying tuned in and bringing her fan base over to the football side. I have no problem with that whatsoever, but Kelce kind of just seems like just one of those guys that kind of just gets on your nerves a tiny bit. But nonetheless, though, that dude's an absolute beast, and he was going off in the second half. And Patrick Mahomes just knows what to do. And, there was some question marks throughout the season on, they have these teams stick with them a little bit going in the third and fourth quarter, but they put them away. And that's something that, going back a few years, I think, it's just something that's just so special with Patrick Mahomes. He will keep his team in it no matter what. And also to the Chiefs defense, just continue to get better and better as the year went out. And, if you match a good defense with already what you got with Patrick Mahomes, which usually saves a defense in games, how are you going to lose? And it was fun. It was fun to watch. How about the halftime show? Did y'all enjoy Usher?
Yeah, everyone in the room that I was in really liked it when he took his shirt off. Maybe not me. Maybe not me as much, but everyone else.
I think you were pointing to you being one of those people.
I honestly didn't pay much attention.
No?
Nah, not a big Usher fan.
No, that's our age group, though, man. He was popping back then. I mean, he still is. Just it was pretty entertaining throughout it. I thought it was a good show for it to be that way. I really liked the one a couple years ago when that was in LA, though. Whenever he had Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, Snoop, Eminem, like absolutely stacked. That was awesome. But still, Usher, great performer. So I thought it was fun to watch. Any other storyline? Anything other crazy that happened from the Super Bowl? Obviously, what happened today, it's hard to kind of just go off of, just ignore that. But awful situation during the Super Bowl parade there in Kansas City. Just this country is, and I don't know, a lot of question marks about what needs to be done. But terrible situation there on what should have been a really fun and exciting time for fans to celebrate their favorite football team. Just gets ruined by classless acts and senseless people. So absolutely terrible, and thoughts and prayers to them. But gentlemen, football's over. Now we're done. Now what do I do on Saturdays if there's no UFC, if there's no
there's college basketball.
If I'm not really keeping up crazy up to date with Florida State basketball, then I tell you what. But that's good, though, for fans that actually are tuned into college basketball. You do still have college basketball, so that's good. But it's just hard for me to buy into that when I guess FSU's not doing good. I'm not keeping an eye on the ACC and where those standings are, But it was tough.
And you're also getting to the end of basketball, so you're kind of going towards that purgatory period, and then it's baseball and softball time. Just I mean, just not really my sports, unfortunately. And yeah, I can't wait for you got some Florida State spring ball coming up here March and April, but after that, it's going to be really bland until that July, August period.
Yeah, once the to me, once the NBA ends and it's that like 2-month stretch of just baseball, that's the worst part of the year. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is tough. I think all of us on this show are not heavy into baseball as much. I've tried to get more into it. I've been to a lot of MLB games just right down the road for the Rays, but I'm a Giants fan, so I can't pull fully yet for the Rays, but I have been going to a lot of baseball games. I'm trying to get more into it, but it's just so many, man. You just can't keep up. My guy Buster Posey retired a couple of years ago, so that's what really kept me dialed into baseball in general, but the Giants, of course. But baseball, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Maybe later down the road, but when football is going like how much it is, we don't really have an off season until about right now when things die down from the transfer portal, signing day, everything like that. Once it simmers down, we're just stale. We're just waiting for spring ball like D-Lou's doing. Which let's jump into a few of those interviews, guys. We heard from a handful the last 2 days on Tuesday and Wednesday, but I think we should start off D-Lou with DJ and a few things that we heard today from him. Someone to me that feels really, really excited about being in Tallahassee.
Yeah, it seemed pretty obvious from his interview that when he entered the transfer portal and Florida State got in contact, that was really the only option that he was kind of considering. And, obviously there was a little bit of a waiting game there while Florida State made their pursuits at Cam Ward, but eventually it ended up working out how both parties won. And, Mike Norvell and Tony Tokars were really sold on what DJ can bring to this offense in 2024. It's obviously going to look a little bit different. He's got some similarities, but obviously a lot of differences from what Jordan Travis brought to Florida State the last couple of years. And it seems like he's already come in, hit the ground running a little bit, talked about how he's the older statesman in that quarterback room and, going to do his best to kind of pass off some knowledge on Brock Glenn and Luke Kromenhoek and some of those other guys in that quarterback room throughout the year, because he's just played so much football, has a ton of experience starting not only at Clemson, but Oregon State. So, I mean, there's some really good qualities that can rub off on some of those younger quarterbacks as they watch him prepare throughout the year. But, I mean, really just throughout the interview, I was impressed with his poise and really how much he talked about that he wanted to be at Florida State. And he's really excited about this system and sold on the coaching staff and really the development that the Seminoles have had on the field the last couple of years.
Yep, he called it an unbelievable place so far, and just enjoying his time in Tallahassee. He grew up a Jameis Winston fan. He said one of his favorite away games that he's been to in his college career has been in Tallahassee, in Doak, whenever he came in 2022 to play against the Seminoles, just hearing the war chant blasting, watching Osceola and Renegade plant the spear. He specifically told us that, that's something that he always remembered. And, now that he's going to be on the home side of that and the garnet and gold, you can only imagine what kind of feeling he's going to get whenever Florida State kicks off their 2024 season. And Doak Campbell Stadium, he's going to be looking forward to that a big time. He said, too, something that stood out to me, and I'm really interested, D-Lou, whenever you guys get to go out there, you and Tommy and the rest of the guys get to see them at Tour of Duty. But he said a lot of these guys have a chip on their shoulder, and these guys are hungry to get after it during these drills and everything. And that's something that stands out to me, because I think, too, you just look at what Mike Norvell did this offseason and the momentum that he found to kind of reconstruct this roster after how many playmakers. We just said 12 of them going to the NFL Combine, plus some more, too, that we're projecting to, hit that pro level, like Akeem Dent. These guys are maybe a little pissed off about what happened this last season. And that's why I'm not overlooking this team. Like, that's why I brought the question to Giant Jones. This is a 12-team playoff. It's not like where Florida State's just going to miss on this season and then get ready for 2025. They're looking to still make a run here in this 2024 season, get to that ACC championship, get to that college football playoff berth. But just for him to mention that to us and say specifically, these guys look like they're really hungry and got that chip on their shoulder, intrigues me a little bit.
A team takes on the personality of their head coach, especially when that head coach is doing a good job. And Mike Norvell, he hasn't been one to sit back and accept that snub from the college football playoff. He's been outspoken at every point and, obviously says that you can only control what you can control. But that was a decision that, Florida State's still reeling from. And especially in the aftermath, that was really tough for everybody around the program. And I think now as we've moved past it a little bit here and starting to move towards the next season and, tour of duty, the guys are back out there together working on their not only conditioning, but also camaraderie and really building a team at this point of the offseason. And I think this is something, in the aftermath, it really sucked. But this is something that this team can really pull together and rally around now and go on this little revenge tour. And same thing with a lot of these guys that they're bringing in who, some of them produce at their previous stops, but some of them, this is going to be their first chance to really show off that talent that they had in high school on the field and expanded roles at the college level. There's something here with that chip on the shoulder, that underdog mentality that Florida State can really attack this offseason.
Mm-hmm. There was a few other guys that I wanted to point out. Delu, you might have some guys and some quotes that you want to bring up, but specifically for me, got to hear from Alabama running back transfer Rodell Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He said that Mike Norvell was the first guy that contacted him right off the bat once he entered the transfer portal. He says that he brings a lot of power with this run. And he said, he feels like he can fit that style that Trey Benson brought the last 2 seasons for Florida State's running back room. He called Trey Benson a monster when going back and looking back at some of his film. But this is a guy, you go back and look at some of his tape. There's some highlights out there on Twitter of him running over cats. That's Mike Norvell is looking at his chops at what he can add to this running back room, but that they do need that into the addition of what you have with Lawrence Toafili and his capabilities and a handful of some other guys, some youngsters too, like a Cam Davis that's going to have to get kind of build that experience on the college level. But Rodell Williams, I thought was really impressive from what we heard from this week.
He's a big dude, man. We were gushing about Cam Davis last week. Rodell Williams, man, he's no joke. And he said that he's been working out since he was like 7 years old. 7 years old, I was probably playing with like blocks or something. I don't even know what I was doing. So that's maybe I was a little bit younger, but either way.
Damn, it took you a little while there to get some growth there, huh?
That's insane. But like you said, Florida State was the first school to reach out to him once he hit that transfer portal. And he said after that conversation with Mike Norvell, he said that he felt like he could tell that Norvell had good intentions for him, and he was pretty much sold after that phone call. And another guy, who's only been here for not even 2 months at this point since he enrolled at Florida State, and he's already talking about how close everyone is in the running back room and how they've got a group chat and are always keeping up with one another. So, it seems like another seamless fit into Florida State's locker room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that running back room, we were talking about, I think the last episode, one to watch out for this spring to just show how much talent is in that room specifically. Rodell Williams adds to that. Another guy, too, I thought this was good. Richie Leonard, the transfer from Florida, offensive lineman, specifically talking about tour of duty here. Just mentioning a little bit different than the past place that he was at down there in Gainesville. He said it's the real deal. It's on a whole other level. And we've heard that plenty of past transfers before and a couple cycles before. And now as these newcomers come in, even some of the Alabama guys mentioned, it's at that tier what Alabama brings. And yeah, it's no joke from what Coach Storms and Mike Norvell build for these guys. But just hearing that from a UF guy, FSU fans were loving and playing around with that quote the last couple of days.
I really liked his interview, mature guy, and not everyone can move from one rival to another. I think it's something that you don't really take lightly with him transferring from Florida to FSU. And he got a lot of flack whenever he announced that decision to do so. There were some Florida players, guys that are still in Gainesville, guys that were former players who have now transferred elsewhere themselves, who were calling out Leonard for transferring to Tallahassee for his final season of eligibility. But he's just kind of taking it all in stride, didn't really take any shots at UF. He could have done during his press conference, and, kind of excited about this one, flying a little bit under the radar, but he's got a ton of experience, was, a solid starter last season for the Gators, said that he's willing to cross-train at Florida State. So, it wouldn't surprise me if he gets a little bit of a look at center this spring. So Florida State can have some backups ready to go in case Maurice gets banged up at some point in this upcoming year. And yeah, it should be another quality addition, not only on the field, but to the locker room. And that's something that Florida State takes it's so highly in the recruiting process is not only are these guys going to be talented on the field, but are they going to be able to fit in with the current guys in place? And I think Richie does.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Fits exactly what you want to have with Atkins, and that just open-mindedness to be, hey, I can go over to another position, learn this. You look at, Darius Washington is a prime example of the success he's found with that, and you can go in and plug whatever time it is, whatever day, whatever quarter, whatever position. That's just Darius Washington. So he's been great over there and taking on new roles. Someone I didn't get to listen to, and I don't know if you were able to a whole ton, D-Lu, because we had a meeting going on during these interviews, but Camden Fryer, I felt like I had him on Zoom over here on my left monitor while we were in that meeting. Couldn't hear what he was saying, but I swear he had a 20-plus minute interview. We've had him on the show before, and yeah, he both him and Luke, they can talk, and they do a great job, and they represent Florida State well. But anything that you got to take away from Camden Fryer's interview, someone that I really wanted to listen to but just couldn't do on Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, really just another impressive Mike Norvell tidbit, because Camden was talking about a visit that he made earlier in his recruitment, and this was before he had an offer from Florida State. Mike Norvell brought him and his family up to his office. And the way Camden kind of recited the story was Norvell talked to him and he's like, I wish I could offer every legacy prospect, but if I did that, I'd end up losing my job. So he's like, I don't take these kind of decisions lightly. And he talked to Camden. He said, I'm offering you a scholarship because of you, not because of your ties to the program. And Camden said that was a conversation that really resonated with him those next couple of weeks after he departed from that visit. And shortly after that, he ended up committing to FSU and, stuck with them throughout the process, even though he had interest from Alabama and plenty of other schools down the stretch. And I really think this is going to be a sneaky good addition. Camden played in a lower classification in Florida during high school over there at Columbia. And he's someone with a ton of speed. Me and Logan have gotten to see him work out before at one of those elite camps a while back. And he was one of the most impressive guys out there. Maybe a smaller guy, but still a lot of potential, and just one of those guys that turns into a pest. He lines up across from you. You're not expecting much, and he just starts taking your lunch money, basically. And it sounds like he's already hitting the ground running in tour of duty. And it's gonna be fun to see him out there in the spring, along with some of these other wide receivers that have already made it to campus.
Mm-hmm. And this is a guy too, depending on what Coach Storms does with them, I don't need to see a whole ton of crazy size added onto him. You want to keep that speed, that elusiveness, but he's really great in one-on-ones, and just seeing him up in person against some really good competition. Some guys in defensive back room, current commits, or some guys that got a offer, like when Darius Jones at that time, those two were battling, and he was winning a good amount of reps. And for some of those deep balls too with Luke that he was catching, they've already built a ton of chemistry together. But Camden is someone to not sleep on whenever we talk about that wide receiver room. Not sure if he'll make an immediate impact like that, just because of how many guys and talent there is with some experience ahead of him. But Camden is someone that we'll be monitoring heavily, going in through his first couple of years at Florida State. Really talented.
And you remember last spring, Van Dravius kind of popped up and had a really good spring for, it being his first couple of months here in Tallahassee after arriving from the 2023 recruiting class. It wouldn't surprise me the same thing if we get out there and we see Camden making some plays and he starts ending up on those practice reports.
Yep. Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking there. Someone that probably going to be writing about quite a bit, D-Lu, and your practice recaps. Anything else from interviews that stood out to you? There was a question in here from Pandas asking us, which newcomers has impressed y'all the most in practice and interviews. We don't have practice yet. They're just going through tour of duties. So we won't have some practice stuff to really be able to give some intel on or give our thoughts on until we get into March time after spring break. But interview wise, I think D-Lu, you and I will agree on this one both. Cam Davis, extremely, extremely impressive. That's why I noted on a lot of our listeners last week to go back and listen to that interview that we had with him a year ago. He's really a kid that's so mature, gives great answers, and you can just tell the loyalty. The loyalty is just in his voice and how much he loves the university. Coach Yak, Florida State's running backs coach, and Mike Norvell. And it's just a kid that bleeds garnet and gold. And that's you can't get any better in that and what you're bringing in the recruiting class and in that locker room, and hard worker on and off the field. I don't know. It was a great interview that we heard from him in his newcomer interview last week.
He's just, so impressive, so mature, and just the way that he stuck to that commitment over the last couple of years, and now for it all to come full circle and him to arrive at Florida State to begin his college career. I'm really excited to see what he's going to bring to Florida State, not only on the field, but off the field. I think he's going to have a big impact in Tallahassee over the next couple of years. Another one, just kind of thinking back, I was really impressed, and I mentioned it last week, Sione Lolohea, another guy who I just really like the way that he approached that interview. Very thoughtful, very detailed with his answers, and talking about coming in and some of these other defensive ends that are in the room and kind of working with them to grow at Florida State and have a good 2024 season. I think that's one that fans are going to like a lot. And one that we haven't yet mentioned tonight, but happened, I think it was last Friday, Logan, but Luke Kromenhoek finally had his interview, and that was one that did go about 20 minutes. And I mean, he talked about every topic under the sun. And another one where, I mean, we're talking about a 17, 18-year-old kid who just got to Florida State a couple of weeks ago, standing up there in front of the podium. And I mean, just every person that asks him a question, he's saying, yes, sir, and then going into the answer. I mean, just so mature, so respectful. And you just kind of see those qualities. I mean, and basically every newcomer that's went up there, the way that they operate and the way they can answer these questions, all mature, thoughtful guys, and seems like they're going to be positive additions to the locker room. But as far as guys standing out, Cam, Sione, Luke Kromenhoek, I mean, there's plenty of other ones that have been great as well, but those three stick with me.
Yep. Those guys. DJ, I thought, did well today too, just because that was his first time talking with the FSU media, and dealing with all of us isn't the most fun at times. So whenever you're going out in front of everyone and having to meet everyone like that, he was very presentful, and I think FSU fans just will understand that he's kind of got a little bit of that Jade Trav personality with him, where he'd rather show it on the field, and he admitted that he's not a crazy vocal guy, but if need be, he will be, and he'll step into that place. So he harped a lot on the talent that he's got around him, which excites him a ton. And that wide receiver room, tight end room, running back room, everywhere, he's really stoked. And I would imagine he should be, because Mike Norvell has built up a pretty good amount of talent that he's gonna be able to work with in the next coming months, whenever he starts building some really good chemistry and spring camp, and we head into that 2024 season. Let's jump into some combine stuff, guys. Man, 12 former FSU football stars are going to Indy. We had a few of them already on the show before, telling us that they'd be heading that way with Braden Fiske and Jarian Jones. But here they are: Jordan Travis, Keon Coleman, Braden Fiske, Jarian Jones, Jared Verse, Johnny Wilson, Fabian Lovett, Kalen DeLoach, Tatum Bethune, Trey Benson, Renardo Green, and Jaheim Bell. Just a handful of absolute athletic freaks, Veazey, it feels like. Just, we're going to be watching this and having popcorn out with the keyboard and getting some work done, but still, just like for any kind of scout or anything, and a lot of scouts that have come and visited the FSU's practices the last 2 years, looking at these guys, just freaks of nature that we're going to be watching during the NFL Combine.
Well, before any of that, justice for Akeem Dent. Where's he at?
Yeah.
That's someone that needs to be at the Combine for sure, the way he played his senior season. But yeah, Florida State's got some athletes. Between Keon Coleman, Trey Benson's going to be a height, weight, speed freak. Obviously, Johnny Wilson at 6'6". This is a good chance for Kalen DeLoach to maybe come in with some more size. We talked about how he came into the East-West Triangle at 202 pounds. If he can even coming to the combine at 212, 215 and still have that same explosiveness, I think that would do him a ton of favors. But just a ton of athletes across this roster that I think a lot of them are going to test very, very well at the combine. I'm excited to see how they do in March.
Some really good opportunities here for guys, for some guys to solidify their stock and other guys to really keep boosting it. Obviously, Braden Fiske, a big riser right now. Jaheim Bell has gotten some love ever since the Senior Bowl. Johnny Wilson, there's still some questions about his hands, but I mean, scouts are just in love with the frame that he presents. So I mean, if he can have a good showing, if all three of those guys can have a good showing on the field and in interviews, just continue to keep pushing themselves in the right direction. Also mentioned Trey Benson and, obviously Keon and Jared Verse. If they get out there and decide to compete in some of these athletic drills, I think they're both going to test near the top of their respective position groups. But I mean, it's going to be exciting. This is an event where there hasn't been a ton of Florida State representation over the past couple of years. Only one former Seminole last year, and Jay Robinson, I believe. I think Corbin actually was able to go to the combine, but he was still dealing with a hamstring injury at that point. And then obviously Jermaine was there as well. But now to have 12 guys go in 1 year, pretty much, and that's a combine event that spans 10 days or so. I mean, there's going to be a reason for Florida State fans to tune in just about every single day.
Yep, 100%. They're going to be interviews. They're going to be having private interviews with teams and everything. It's a great event for them to go, and just to get invited to this is huge for them. And, I think a lot of these guys, too, already have some good draft stock and where we're seeing in some of these mock drafts, but can only rise from there. I think, for me, some question marks on what some of these teams are going to want to do with Jaheim Bell. He's not as specifically blocking tight end, but there's a scheme that I know there's an offense out there, offensive coordinator that thinks that it can fit that offense. I'm just wondering how Jaheim Bell shapes up in that NFL combine. I'm looking at Kalen DeLoach. We were talking about him a couple episodes ago. Smaller right now in size. Interested to see if he's going to put on some more pounds as we get closer to the combine. And just for entertainment reasons, a lot of questions I saw on Twitter about Jordan Travis. We put out a piece a couple of weeks ago about what he intends on doing. He talked with the Steelers outlet, informing them, not planning on participating at the combine, still going through rehab, but he feels like he's going to be 100% once he gets close to football season, NFL football season. And then, for him, he's going to be spending a lot of times doing media interviews along with, sitting down with some teams and having those private interviews. But yeah, some freak things to look at with some of these guys like Braden Fiske, Johnny Wilson, Jared Verse, Trey Benson, Keon, how he performs as well. But yeah, Johnny's got to, if he can fix those hands and he can deliver well in the combine, that would be huge for him as well, because he was kind of a little wishy-washy tiny bit in the Senior Bowl during those practices. There's some things that he can clean up there. He's got the physical attributes, but can you just take care of the one job that you have to, the most serious one when you're a wide receiver, is catch that ball. So yeah, if you're an FSU fan, there's no reason why you shouldn't be glued into your TV and that long weekend. Yeah, I'm just excited. I was just going to say, I'm just excited to have a big batch of Noles heading into the NFL, because it kind of started getting a little slower. And on Sundays, I'd be like, all right, I wish there were some more FSU guys out there. But now get this batch in there, and then it makes our coverage a lot more fun on Sundays.
For sure. And yeah, we'll see how Johnny does. The medicals here are going to play a big part for a couple of Seminoles. And, you mentioned Jordan Travis, but, interested to see how Fabian Lovett comes out, because he's a guy that's dealt with various lower body injuries throughout the last couple of years. And then Tatum Bethune, missed that Orange Bowl game, was out there trying to get ready for the game, but wasn't quite able to go due to a lower body injury. So, he's spent the last couple of months recovering, and be interested to see if he's able to fully go at the combine as well.
I was honestly a little surprised to see him get the invite. Honestly. And that's not a discredit to him, but we just haven't heard about him much since the season ended. Like, he wasn't at any of these all-star events. It's been pretty quiet on the Tatum Bethune front. To see him get a combine invite, to me, surprised me a little bit. I know it's a lot of at the request of the team, so it's good to see that some teams are interested in him at least.
And I think that's probably why it's been so quiet, just because he's been recovering from an injury. And I'm sure he communicated that to whatever all-star games had interest in him. And, it's good that they're at least still going to get him up there to the combine to get a good look at him in front of, every NFL scout and GM and coach that you can imagine.
I love our guy Terrell. Always coming in here showing some love, but I love this specifically. What up, my boys? What up, the great Logan? What up, the legend Austin? And what up, bro? Dustin.
All right. Well, I'll take what I can get.
Thing every week, though. It's the same thing every week, though. So it's nothing. And
it's the same thing in the Discord too. Dustin's so very clearly third that it's quite funny.
I'm used to third wheeling.
Dustin, no, because you're the one that's married. Me and Veazey are the ones here that are But
where are you going with that?
Direction. Yeah, that's going to head the wrong direction. Let's move on here. ESPN way too early rankings. There's nothing better than having way too early rankings in February, not even in spring camp yet, but why not? Veazey, I know, loves early rankings. This guy, he's the one that sent it to me. He was like, we got to discuss this on the show. Let's talk some early rankings. Because you're big on just the day-to-day rankings when we're in football season. So you definitely want to know the way too early rankings, right?
For those that haven't listened to the podcast for very long, he's being very sarcastic.
No, you love the rankings. You love the AP poll when that's coming out. But really, this is your time to shine. Way too early rankings on February 14th on Valentine's Day. This is where ESPN put Florida State. They put Florida State at number 15. Number 15. I'll go through the list here. Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, Texas 4. Notre Dame at 5, Ole Miss 6, Missouri at 7, Penn State at 8, Alabama at 9, 10 Utah, Arizona at 11, LSU 12, Michigan, former national champions at number 13, Oklahoma 14, then Florida State at 15. So those are the teams that ESPN is ranking in their way too early ones ahead of Florida State there.
Still not in the playoff, huh?
Nope, not in the playoff. Nope, FSU snubbed again.
Well, technically, weren't they the highest ACC team there? So technically,
hey, but we've seen it before though, Veazey.
Nah, the conference champions are conference champions guaranteed now. So they would technically be in. It's February. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean,
Veazey just.
I agree. I mean, who cares? Because it's
also it's ESPN. Who cares?
It's ESPN, but it's also really hard to project Florida State right now because you're adding in nearly 40 new players. They're not even all here yet. I mean, the Florida State's not even done necessarily making additions yet. We'll see whatever they decide to hit on after the spring. But I mean, there's still some positions that they could shore up, some more guys that come in. I don't know how they're going to do it with the scholarship stuff, but the numbers will always find a way to work themselves out in the end. So I'm sure that the coaching staff has a plan there, but the roster is technically not finalized. There's a lot of guys coming back who have a lot of potential, but haven't yet proven it on the field just yet. So I think with Florida State, you're looking more at potential and what they could become rather than necessarily the proven production. And that's something that they're going to get dinged on a lot by some of these national outlets that aren't there to cover the team day by day.
I will say I was surprised to see Alabama still in the top 10.
It's Alabama.
I get that's ESPN's baby and they have to protect their golden child, but that's a team that lost a lot of talent in between the coaching staff, the roster, all over the place. I don't know that they're going to be ninth by the end of the season, especially with just how many teams are on the SEC and how many of them play each other. I think it's going to be tough for them to be the ninth best team in college football this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just looking at it. It just creates some content and just a little bit of discussion, just like what we needed to fill up space for 5 minutes. And we did do our job here, and we filled up a little 5 minutes on a way too early rankings in February 14th. And whenever we get the updated way too early rankings, we'll have it here first for you at Hear the Spear. So make sure you subscribe and not miss out on that.
I'll be shaking my head during that segment too.
You gave some great analysis, though.
Thanks.
Trust me. I'll be looking for the text from you. I know you're subscribed to those rankings, so I know we'll get that from you first. Yeah, so that's going to be the way too early rankings. Last thing on here before we jump into basketball, PFF released their Super Bowl mock draft. And this one, it held 3 Seminoles, including Jared Verse, Keon Coleman, Braden Fiske. They started off with Jared Verse landing with the Minnesota Vikings at number 11 there, Veazey. That one to get you a little excited. And then at number 32, still sticking in the first round, is Keon Coleman, going to the defending Super Bowl champions, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
I love that projection. I love it.
That sounds really tasty. That one would be fun. Not so much for my Steelers in the AFC, even though I don't want to talk about it. Arthur Smith still on my team. Braden Fiske, though, this is a cool one. Getting projected to go at number 61 selection to Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions.
Please no.
Veazey's saying no. Veazey's saying no.
Please no.
He's a Vikings fan.
Yeah, I'm a Vikings fan. He'd be in my division and go against Ed Ingram 2 times a year. No.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true.
That's fine. We'll just switch Jared Verse and Braden Fische's draft projection.
No.
So Minnesota can have Fiske, and we'll do Verse at 61 to Detroit.
Yeah. Don't know that might be a little that might be tough. But I'm just going to go off this article here. If the prediction rings true, it would be the first time that at least 3 Seminoles are selected in the top 100 since 2015.
Yeah.
Florida State produced 6 third-round or higher selections, including number 1 overall pick, Jameis Winston.
Wow. That was a heck of a year. That was Jameis,
nuts,
Nick O'Leary. I mean, man, there were so many.
Nick O'Leary was like a 6th round pick, right?
Yeah, he did not qualify for that stat that I put in the article, but he still got drafted that year.
2015, that would have been what? Cam Irving was a 1st rounder.
PJ Williams,
Darby,
not a 1st rounder, but yeah,
PJ and Darby.
Yeah. Where was Mario?
That was Mario's year.
Benjamin
Eddie Goldman,
right?
Yeah, Mario, Eddie Goldman. Because Eddie Goldman was 15,
This
right?
is someone. What about Telvin?
Telvin was 5th round pick,
and he would have been the year before.
He was undersized.
Oh, 2015. My bad.
15's after the Rose Bowl loss.
Yeah.
14 would be after the Natty.
Yeah, that was stacked squad there. But I mean, we're gonna have a really fun time once we get to this NFL draft.
I mean, versus the Vikings would be so much fun. Obviously, there's to get into like some Viking specifics here. Edge rusher's a huge question mark for them right now. Danielle Hunter's a free agent. TJ Waddle's a free agent. Marcus Davenport's a free agent. They need someone there, even if you bring Danielle Hunter back. And if I could have Verse and Danielle Hunter screaming off the edges, I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, it would be. Saw Daniel Hunter at the Pro Bowl. Good guy. Big boy.
But I really love that Keon projection because I was going to bring it up earlier when we were talking about the Super Bowl, but I thought this year was this is the most impressed I've been for Patrick Mahomes because, I mean, the other years were great, but this year to have no true number 1 receiver, really not even a number 2 receiver, if you want to look at what Kansas City is putting out there.
I would say Rashee Rice is a good number 2.
He's a rookie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, still, so that's insane.
It's not solidified. Yeah, it's just
they don't have that. They don't have that Tyreek Hill like they used to have, and he's still going out there and lead them to a Super Bowl. The stat was insane that they're 7-0 in the playoffs since they traded Tyreek. I mean, that's nuts. But to have an opportunity to grab someone like Keon potentially at the top of the 1st round, 6'4", 215, 220 pounds or so, athletic freak. We saw what he was able to do at Florida State whenever he was healthy. I mean, man, that would fit right into what they're doing. You get a cost-controlled rookie contract as well for him for 4 years and see what he develops into as Patrick Mahomes, who's only 28 years old, is still hitting that prime of his career. I think that would be an insane combination.
The crazy thing is the 2 teams I've seen Keon mock to the most is Josh Allen and the Bills and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Either way,
we'll send it.
Yeah, either way, it's perfect for him. Teams that need a receiver, I think Buffalo would be an amazing fit for him because obviously you have Stephon Diggs, who lost a step this year, but is still a very good number 1 receiver. You put Keon in that offense with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. That's a fun offense at Buffalo. But for this scenario specifically, Kansas City could arguably take 2 receivers with their 1st and 2nd round picks. Keon in the 1st would be fun, and obviously he's in that same range would be like A.D. Mitchell at Texas, Bucky Irving at Oregon. But yeah, it'd be cool to see Keon Coleman go to that offense and play alongside Patrick Mahomes.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun to watch as long as it's not against Pittsburgh and the
it'd be even more fun then.
No, not really though. Not too much. Not with our secondary. I don't want to even get close to that. Please don't.
And I remember he said, I think it was a podcast interview that we wrote an article off of, but he said like a big reason he went to Michigan State out of high school was to get used to that colder weather that he's going to have to deal with in the NFL. So, I mean, this is something that he's been thinking about in the back of his mind for years.
I'm just wondering if he lasts that long. We'll see. Some things, wide receivers are getting taken earlier now. Tight ends are so much more of a priority and important position group in the NFL. We'll see if he can last that long. But yeah, Kansas City would be really fun for Keon, and he'd have a good chance of getting a ring early.
It's kind of one of those with Keon that his injury in the second half of the season has definitely dropped him down on some boards. He went from being a potential top 10, top 15 pick to kind of seems consensus he's in that 25 to 30 range. So we'll see what happens if he tests well at the combine. Obviously things change. If he comes out and runs, a 4.4 at that size and at that weight, that would help him a lot. But the injury definitely seemed to hinder him, at least
I think
project-wise.
Yeah, there's a few guys like FSU in their realm. If they go off, and I'm thinking Keon specifically, Johnny, these guys do everything right up in Indy, take care of the meetings well, but they skyrocket back to where they were kind of projected there after what they did against LSU in the early part of the 2023 season.
I think Trey Benson's got the most money to make, honestly, because he can
solidify himself as number one running back. He can solidify himself.
It kind of seems like he's in that 4 to 5 running back spot. If he comes out and runs, in the high 4.3s, which I think he can do, honestly, everyone's going to go, he's 6'1", 220, running 4.3. Yeah, we gotta start moving him up the board a little bit.
He was at 230 this last year, which is crazy.
So if he comes out and runs the speed that we all know he can run, because he was a track athlete in high school.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure I was talking with him in the springtime, maybe it was fall camp, and he was at 235 and planning to trim down to 230 for the season. And that's what he was playing at weight-wise. And then I was like, man, I feel like that's heavy for you. I feel like that's pretty heavy for you. And then he fucking flies off the sideline and takes it 40 yards downfield. It's just freakish. But yeah, that's why the combine, everybody should make sure they're asking off Thursday, Friday, making sure they can watch that, because it's going to be super, super fun. And we're going to do our bets too. When we get closer, we're going to do our 40 bets. Whoever wins something. I don't know, figure something out, but it's going to be fun. I'm so excited. Basketball time to end off the pod. Florida State fell to Virginia Tech late last night for Veazey, who was in attendance. He brought the Veazey bad juju, sadly. I mean, I don't want to put it on you, but we got to find some kind of excuse so it doesn't hurt the ham slander on here. So we got to blame it on you.
I put it on myself before the game. I wanted to be known that I put in the preview article that I've been very bad at FSU basketball games. Really, I'm now 1-15 in my last 16 games. It's not pretty.
Wait, oh my gosh, he already had.
Yeah,
how is that possible?
We were talking about in the Discord. It's because it's all road games in the state of North Carolina and Virginia for the most part, where we don't play very well.
It does tend to skew the result, I guess.
It's games at Duke, at Carolina, at Virginia Tech, at Clemson. These are all places Florida State historically does not play very well. At the same time, there's a couple neutral site games in there that Florida State should have won, but we don't talk about those. Last night, the second half was it was brutal. They go into halftime tied at 39. You had a great 2-for-1 situation right before the half to get the game tied. And you're going into halftime with momentum. Virginia Tech comes out, first play is a lob to Lynn Kidd in the first 5 seconds of the half. And from there, it was all downhill. Jamir Watkins picked up 2 quick fouls to give him 3 with, 18:30 left in the second half. So he had to sit for a little bit. It was just another foul-laden, free throw heavy game. And Florida State just hasn't had a ton of luck with those lately. I think there's 61 total free throws last night. And still, Florida State could have won the game, and the team knows that. Jalen Worley stole a pass with 4:30 left, down 5, takes it in transition, gets fouled on the layup attempt, ball rims out. And so instead of having an and-1 opportunity, shooting 2 free throws, misses both free throws, so you're still down 5. Virginia Tech comes back, it's an and-1 goaltend. So instead of being down 2 or 3 with 4 minutes left, you're down 8. And the game was over then. The team was out of it. The life had been sucked out of them. It's just, you could tell right there they lost the game, and it sucked because they could have won. They really could have won. Jamir Watkins was unbelievable. He was unstoppable. 26 points, 7 of 9 from the floor, 3 of 3 from 3, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Did absolutely everything he could possibly do and just didn't get much help from anyone else. Darren Green had a fine game with 14 points. Was finally hitting some threes. Outside of that, it was rough from pretty much the rest of the team, and it sucks. Really sucks.
You can say it about any team, but I mean, it's just tough to watch. 3 after 3, clang. When someone's going to the line, like the most they're going to do is 1 out of 2. It's tough. I mean, this team has struggled shooting all season, but it just seems like the road woes are starting to settle in. And now, you've lost 4 out of 5, and I think the team understands at this point there's not really a path to the NCAA tournament unless they were to pull some crazy run in the ACC tournament and win the whole thing. And
they'd have to win the ACC tournament. I mean, really, the 3-point shooting wasn't Florida State's doing in last night. I mean, they're 8 of 18 from 3. That's much better than we've got from them really in the last month. But going, 19 of 29 from the free throw line isn't great. And then the thing that killed them is points off of turnovers. Virginia Tech scored 23 points off of 13 Florida State turnovers, where Florida State had just 7 points off of 11 Virginia Tech turnovers. That's usually something Florida State dominates. And for them to get beaten that badly in that statistic by Virginia Tech, it's not great. That's something that they have to win game after game if they want a chance to win the basketball game itself. And you just, especially Virginia Tech, I mean, they killed Virginia Tech on turnovers in January in the Tucker Center. So not a great showing. I don't know if they were looking ahead a little bit to Saturday because Duke's coming to town, but they got to be better. There's just too many boneheaded decisions in that second half. Like Primo Spears intentionally fouling out with a minute and a half left on an 89% free throw shooter just made absolutely no sense to me. Cam Corn had a couple really bad fouls. He fumbled the ball out of bounds after Jalen Worley missed 2 free throws to maybe cut back into the lead. Just a lot of tiny little mistakes that can very easily be fixed, and they're going to have to.
Just seems like the defense has fallen off as of late. I mean, not only last night, but you go back to that Virginia game. Really, you throw out that Boston College win. What was it, like a week and a half ago, and you've got the Louisville game, which was you talked about it the first time that Florida State had given up 100 points since however long, and
2017.
The North Carolina game before that, the defense, which seemed to be improving some in January, and the guys were like really bought in on that side of the floor. It's diminished.
For sure. I mean, there was a time in late January, I think Florida State was a top 30 defense on KenPom, and now they are, I haven't checked in a minute. Now they're 59th. So they've fallen off a cliff these last couple of weeks, and the Virginia game was, I don't even know how to describe the Virginia game.
Very strange.
The offense was amazing.
Right.
Like if you look at the final score, you're like, wait, hold up. Florida State scored how many points on Virginia and they lost? Like Virginia was only allowing teams to score 30, 40, 50 points for the 3 weeks leading up to the game, and Florida State puts up 75 or whatever it was, 76. And they shot like 72% on 2-point shots. They were amazing from the free throw line, and they lost because Isaac McNeely had every wide open 3. And I think he had 28, 29 points. Just a very weird Virginia Florida State basketball game. I think the projected total was 125 for reference, and they combined for 156.
It's crazy when you think about the way Virginia plays, and we were talking about coming into that game, the 60-38 win against Miami. You're expecting some ugly slugfest, and instead you got Florida State and Virginia going up and down the floor, putting up 70+ points each.
And a lot of it was free throws. I mean, Florida State, I want to say they were 26 of 33 from the free throw line. I'm going off the top of my head here, but it's the most free throws anyone shot against Virginia in close to a decade. There was a lot of Virginia fans that were not happy about that game, and understandably so, when Virginia of all teams is allowing 33 free throws. Just a classic Jamie Luckey officiated game.
Yikesers. Well, hopefully they bounce back.
Logan's not even paying attention to anything that's going on. He's just waiting for the noise to stop so he can be like, all right, show's over.
No, I would never do that. I'm not over here already getting the rough draft to upload to the podcast platforms at all. I would never do that. I'm not writing the description and the title and everything. I would never do that while listening. But yeah, that's going to wrap up the show. Thank you, D-Lou, for the transition. Thank you very much for that. Look at this, under an hour. I have a feeling this is going to be the way it goes from here on out, unless we have a guest coming on to help us out and carry the show. But that's all she wrote for this week. We just want to let everybody know, too, we've got now YouTube just uploaded a new platform where we can share our podcasts on there. So if you guys want to go check that out, I know a lot of y'all are on YouTube anyways, so they just launched their podcast platform. So all of our episodes and old ones are being uploaded this week as we speak. So if you guys want to use that, if not, you can always use iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, everywhere. We're all on there for your audio listeners. But that's going to do it for this week's episode. Hopefully next week we'll have a guest for you guys so we can chop it up with them. But yeah, everybody have a great rest of y'all's Valentine's Day. D-Lou, you've got some work to do. We ended it right here at 8 o'clock, so no excuses. You better go figure out dinner, what you're picking up. Publix is still open another 2 hours, so you can jot over there and grab some wine. I think you can make some magic happen. Okay, so just a regular Wednesday evening. Oh, man. Well, yeah, appreciate everybody. Thanks so much during the slow time. Trying to keep you guys a little bit up to date with what's going on in the football and basketball side and recruiting wise. But we're still going to kick it and keep the show rolling. So, yeah, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you guys next week at Wednesday at 7 p.m. Peace.